Hello, I am Kai, and this is Pastor Jacoby, and this is the Tuesday Taco.
Tuesday Spiritual Taco. We'll work on it. Hello. I want to talk to you about this great story that I think we miss a piece of this, or at least in my brain, it's exciting. Okay. So what we're talking about is, why do we fear what others are afraid of? It's an interesting thing that we don't think about. It is part of our human nature that there are people who confronted things and had an adverse effect to that. So they teach us not to go down certain roads. We don't eat certain mushrooms because someone ate it once and decided that it would kill you. So they would teach people not to do certain things. And so it's innate in us to fear what other people are afraid of because of the reason why they're afraid of it for some odd reason. So in this particular story, we have David, who was anointed king earlier. David, who helps Saul with that spirit that's in him, that bothers him, that torments him. So David's going back and forth from King Saul to taking care of his father's sheep. King Saul taking care of his father's sheep. Now here comes Goliath, and he is like wrecking them as far as getting them all scared about who's going to fight him. And you got David's father who says, look, man, go get your brothers. Here's where they are. Here's some grain. Here's some cheese. Here's some food. Go give them something to eat. David goes to see his brothers and give them some food. He finds out that this Goliath is going out and saying those things. And he's like, why is no one out here going to fight him? Who's going to fight this man? He's trying to get information to see what's going on. So we find in our text in verse 28 that his brothers hears about what David is doing. And so the older brother Eliab says, he gets burned with anger and starts saying things like, I know how wicked you are. Why'd you come down here? I know how conceited you can be. He's trying to get his brother angry enough to go home, it sounds like. And David is like, can I speak here? I have something at stake here. And all of a sudden, people are curious as to why David is not afraid to go after Goliath, even though he's the only one out of the 8 kids that his father had, out of the 7 older brothers, that's not a warrior. And he is the one that's willing to go out there and try to see what's going on and is offended by the words in which Goliath was saying. So it's an amazing space to have this conversation of, why do we fear what others are afraid of? What the brother didn't know, that he had a deep conviction to fight for Israel. What his brother didn't know is he had a deep conviction and a promise that he would rule over Israel in a way. So he knew that this wasn't the end of Israel. And if he had to be the one to fight for it, he's willing to do it. In our own lives, God tells us to go for things, to do certain things, to pray for certain people, to minister in certain spaces, to live our gospel life out loud, and to and tell our testimonies and do these other things. And we find ourselves with family members who've been on the battlefield for so long, and they have had bad experiences. So they tell us not to, don't do this, don't say that, God's not in this, but they don't understand the conviction in which you have. David is a prime example of this. Even when the king tried to shield him with his own armor, David couldn't accept it because the armor didn't fit him. It wasn't for him to wear that. He was supposed to go out there totally vulnerable and allow God to be who God is. And that's the one that goes before us and answers prayer and affirms what he's called us to do. I'm saying this: stop being afraid of what other people are afraid of. Allow what God put in you to pave the way so that those people who've been in the battlefield for so long and have a fear because what's happened before can begin to be reignited to who this God is, this amazing God that calls us out of our comfort zone into the different battlefields and letting people know what is possible with Christ, which are all things, because God is all in all. He is sovereign. So my challenge for you as we look at this Tuesday Taco is to ask yourself, why am I afraid of the things that God has called me to do? This is your Tuesday Spiritual Taco, and I